This is a VR to Bearded Bristol, who posted today about setting goals and wanted some advice on setting goals. And I did put a little answer in his um, responses to his video on the replies. But I thought I would just go a bit further into what I said. One of the things about setting goals is that all too often we are too short term in setting our goals. You might not believe that, because you might sort of say, well, my goal is to have enough money when I retire to live the life that I want to live. Or you might even say, I've got these goals that I've set for work. But what I mean is that we sometimes set them without knowing what we really want in life, what really is our life about. So I suggested that Bearded Bristol might write his obituary. What would he like people to say about him when he died? And it's something that I commend to you all. It's not morbid. It helps you to understand what really drives you, what really is important to you. What would you like to be known for? What would you like people to say? And often in doing that, we find out what really we want in life. Because many of us don't know where we're going, why we're going, and we've just fallen into jobs, or we thought that this career is the one that we wanted. But sometimes there are deeper things in life. A friend of mine was a good pianist and musician, and she wanted to go to university and study the piano and study music and take a degree, until she was halfway through the course, and she suddenly realised what she wanted to be was a doctor, a researcher, a professor of medicine. And she changed course halfway through and ended up as a professor in a particular branch of medicine. At first she thought she'd be happy with the piano, but really her gift and her role was in medicine. I thought I wanted to serve God in the church. And maybe it was God's will, and maybe all the things that happened were part of that doing right. But eventually I had a breakdown and left, and my whole attitude changed. Not that I am annoyed with God or anything like that. I just feel that maybe I wasted most of my life. Perhaps, though, I'm just finding my role in life. As a philosopher, a writer, a purveyor of useless information and of videos that sometimes, occasionally inspire. I don't know, but I know I used to fill in my role in life, and you'd set your role, you'd set your beliefs, your guiding principles. But when I'm realistic about it, they were never really what was me. They were what I thought I should put. They were what I thought and genuinely thought that I wanted. And I think when we're setting roles, unless we know what we genuinely want out of life, what we want people to say about us when we die, it's very difficult, because we could end up thinking we want one thing and we really want another. I'm repeating myself a bit, but I think it's a lesson that I need to learn. Once you know what really makes you tick, then maybe you can find what you want. For example, we're not all one thing. We're many things, with many skills and many gifts. And it might be that little gift that you haven't really thought about much is the one that's going to transform your life. Once you sort of feel, right, this is what I want, you can then begin to take steps, set goals to get to that end. For example, you've decided that you want to make lots and lots of money. So how do you go about it? Well, there are several ways. You can set up a business, you can invest, you can rob banks. Although I don't advise that last one. But it's when you sort of say, right, I want to set up a business. What kind of business do I want to be working in 10 years that I've set up? So how do I go about it? Well, the first thing, is there any training I need? Is there any knowledge I need? So one of your goals might be to get the knowledge that you need to work out a business plan. And all those things are steps towards what you want to do. Supposing you want to make a complete change of your life at the moment you're working in a job that you don't like, that you're doing because you feel you have to, either because you have a family and you need to look after that family. Well, that might not be the job that you're meant to do. I said I worked at an observatory. The guy who runs that observatory, Graham Files, he was a builder, worked as a builder's labourer, but always had an interest in stars and in astronomy. And eventually his wife said to him, why don't you study astrophysics? And that's what he did. But he decided that he wanted to have a place where people could go to look at the stars. And at first he was going to have a small hut on top of a hill in the Kielder forest, and people could just go up and look through this one telescope. But gradually the idea developed, and he got in touch with the people who owned the land, and he managed to get a place on that land to build an observatory, a proper observatory. How could he do it? Well, he couldn't afford an architect, so he ran a competition for an architect's design for an observatory. That way, it wouldn't cost him as much, cost him a fraction of the price, and he would have an architect's designed observatory. and the architect would be pleased with the prize and would be pleased with the publicity and that kind of thing. And the observatory he got was a brilliant one. I might sometime do a video on it. And then he put a telescope in, a good telescope, a big telescope, and a 10-inch telescope, which was, not very big. But as time went on, he built it up. Initially, his backers said you must fulfill 5 nights in a year where you have the public in. Well, in the first year that went by the board. People just wanted to come. Now we have, I say we, sorry, I still feel that I'm there. But now it's open to 3 events a day, 363 days a year. And they're building another massive telescope and observatory. Eventually it's going to be a star village with accommodation, with all sorts of things. One of the best, biggest telescopes, public telescopes, are already up there. At the moment they have three or four now, I think, and they have several trained astronomers who have given their life to astronomy and who are working there. He followed his dream. He knew what he wanted, and he set out to do it. So before you can set goals, you've got to know what you want, and then you've got to go for it. It's no good setting goals if you don't fulfill them. So don't set the massive goals. Yes, have a massive thing that you want to do, it is going to be your life. But set small goals, small steps, till you get to the way you want to be. But do the steps. It's no good sort of listing them that what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to get there, if you don't make the effort, if you don't do it. If you put something down as a step, you must have every intention of fulfilling that step. However difficult it seems to you, there are ways to do it. There are ways to get where you want to be. You might not believe that, but as you take each step and you fulfill that first small step, and then the next step, and the next step, you suddenly find you're there, doing what you really want to do. I'm going to stop there, because this whole video might not be helpful to anybody. Might just be totally wrong advice, but I don't think it is. I think each one of us needs to look at our ultimate goal. Where do we want to end up? Obviously, there are some goals that are more difficult than others. I might want to be King of England, but that's not going to happen. But I could say, I want to become a lord, or whatever, and work my way towards that. As it is, I'm 60 odd, and my main aim at the moment is to live to be 100. But anyway, I will do a joke. There was a boss of a large firm, and he'd had a horrible car accident, but the hospital staff were so brilliant that they were able to fix him up. except for one ear, which is a permanent disability. This lack of an ear was a great problem for him mentally. He was always sensitive about it, and people seemed to make fun of it behind his back. And one day he wanted to interview some men for a new job, for a management job. So he brings the first man in, and the first man's brilliant, just what the firm needs. So after the interview, at the end of the interview, the boss says, "Is there anything that you notice about me? Do you notice anything different about me?" And the man says, "Well, yeah, you've only got one ear." So, of course, he didn't get the job. The second man came in, and the boss at the end of the interview said, "Is there anything that you want to say? Is there anything that you notice about me, anything that's different?" And he says, "Yes, I couldn't help notice you're missing your right ear. I don't know whether that impacts you on your hearing on that side." And of course the boss is devastated, and the man doesn't get the job. The next man comes in, the third and final candidate, and it comes to the end of the interview, and the boss says, "Is there anything that you notice about me?" And he says, "Yeah, there is actually. Do you wear contact lenses?" And the boss said, "How could you possibly know that?" And he said, "Well, you've only got one ear to put your bloody glasses on, haven't you?"